Hey, Nick, is there a guard you feel you can build around?
Yeah, the three guys that I really found myself gravitating, toward this morning were Fred VanVleet at 8,800, Chris Paul at 9,700, and Devin Booker at 9,300. So, if you want, you could kind of shoehorn those three guys into a lineup. You probably have to pick two. I think I would lean VanVleet and Chris Paul. Booker and Paul have been incredible during this Suns' latest winning streak. Suns have the best offense in the league by a mile during the streak. Both of them have played super well pretty much every single night. This should be a good matchup against the Hawks, assuming Trae Young plays. Should be a fairly competitive game. So those three are where I would start. It should be noted, of course, that DeJounte Murray would normally be just an auto, lineup guy for me, but he is questionable for this game. So TDB, we'll see how that turns out throughout the day. And I also think Steph Curry, if you do feel like really paying up at 10,400, he's in another very good spot, catching the Kings on the second night of a back-to-back. Had that big game against Houston. I'm still not totally convinced that Curry has snapped out of that extended slump, but you really can't ask for two better back-to-back matchups to break out of something like that than Houston and Sacramento.
Matt, what do you think? Which guard is catching your eye?
So I want to stick with the Spurs because I do think DeJounte Murray is more likely to sit than to play. The Spurs are on a back-to-back. They just came off this tough loss against the Warriors, and they play tomorrow against the Houston Rockets. So for tonight's game with Murray questionable, I think I'm leaning in the direction of him being out, and that leaves Derek White. I guess White could sit also. He's been resting at times when Murray sits, but assuming White plays at $6,000, he's the guy who runs the offense from the backcourt. This should be a more up-tempo game for the Spurs than usual, too, because they don't have their defense-first center in Jakob Poeltl playing. Drew Eubanks is the likely starter, but this could be a game where the Spurs have to go small. The pace could pick up. So White obviously has more responsibility if Murray's not there, but I also think this game could be different than it normally is for San Antonio.
All right, Garion, which guard are you rolling with?
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with Nick. I think the two guys I had written down were Fred VanVleet and Chris Paul. I think Paul is interesting, and this is something Matt talks about a lot, generally as it pertains to totals with the Hawks. But, I think the presence of Trae Young does a lot for me in terms of Devin Booker and Chris Paul's value, because if he's playing, the likelihood of a more tight game script is obviously improved. Trae Young's a very, very talented offensive player. He also pushes the pace for Atlanta, and he's a terrible defender. So I just think their offensive fortunes improve if Trae Young is playing. So it's kind of funny to think of an Atlanta Hawks player dictating my feelings towards a pair of Phoenix Suns, but I think that is a little bit of the case where VanVleet's just solid. On a slate with so many question marks, I am really drawn towards just the sheer floor of the Raptors, like quote-unquote star players. VanVleet, across his last 6 games, leads the NBA, 42.2 minutes per game. He's one of 3 players averaging over 100 touches per game. He's just going to play 40 minutes. Nick was joking earlier that Pascal Siakam only played 35 minutes. He got a break. The only reason that happened is he picked up 2 quick fouls in the first quarter and had to sit for 9 minutes, which is unprecedented for a Raptor right now. So it really does take, an act of God to stop one of these guys from reaching 40 minutes, and I just think they're going to play 40 again tonight.